Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us remotely is Nigel. He's the CEO of Publicis Sapient. We're going to take a look at companies and how they're going to look to digital solutions as new business models emerge. Nigel, it's great to have you with us during these unprecedented times in the marketplace, in our economy, and who we are as a society. Give us a high-level view of Publicis Sapient and how you think businesses are really going to use digital solutions as they bring on new business models.
Well, thank you for having me, Jill. And Publicis Sapient has always been a pioneer in helping, in the early days, businesses get on the internet, and laterally, essentially helping businesses become more and more relevant in an age that is increasingly digital. Something we talk about very often is the fact that transformation isn't necessarily digitizing what you do today, but thinking about your business in an entirely different context, leveraging what's changing about consumer behavior, technology, and new business models. So a lot of the work we do with our clients is helping them fundamentally reimagine themselves in the context of a world which is very digital. And certainly the times that we live in today are accelerating, many people and many businesses in that direction in a far more rapid way.
And let's take a look at what that framework is going to look like for a successful digital transformation and where the focus is going to be.
Yeah, I think, look, if you think about historically, technology has, been referred to in the context of an enabling tool, often, even thought about as, well, you just need good plumbing. And I think actually what we're seeing now more than ever is the shift for technology has gone away from essentially being about risk and cost, so keep my costs low and my risk low, to being really about value and differentiation. So how can you differentiate in the context of an experience that is entirely digital? How do you actually think about consumer behaviors and how they're shifting and enable these consumers to be supported across whatever channels they're interacting with you on, and especially at times like these when these consumers are limited from interacting with you in a physical capacity. So no dealerships for cars, no retail shops or supermarkets for the most part. And so that is a big area of focus. The second is thinking about the role that business models play. So what are these mashups that can be created by combining essentially the ability to think of a restaurant as a giant vending machine in the context of a world where you can't access the physical restaurant, and the role that a business model plays in the context of that, or thinking about the shifts we're starting to see with so many businesses trying direct to consumer models, cars and manufacturers thinking about not just car configurators online, but delivery. And then, finally, thinking about experience and technology and the exponential nature. Because for us, if you think about three things are critical: that shift in consumer behavior, technology, and business. And I think the focus has got to go from historically the idea that you can only have one of the three things, whether it's scope, time, and cost, to really thinking about speed, quality, and value. This idea of how do we actually get something out to market quickly? How do we constantly iterate and improve its quality? And ultimately, how do we focus on value that is being unlocked here as opposed to the cost, which is a very different shift, from where I started about how people think around technology.
What about accelerating a cashless society? I feel like consumers are going to gravitate to whatever is available and what's going to make their life easier. Do you think that this will certainly be the case to see a more pronounced cashless society?
I absolutely think, whether it's banks, right? Think about the purpose of a bank. A bank basically houses all of your money, but do I really need to go into a bank to pay you? Can I not text you money? We've been building solutions like this over the last 5 or 6 years, but actually the biggest barrier to adoption to some extent has been the business models and the institutions and the way they operate and consumer behavior and their adoption. You put these two things together into a world like today where you cannot physically go into a bank. We're starting to see biggest signups of adoption in folks over 70 years old to online banking applications, because they actually still need to pay their bills. They still need to provide solutions banks still need to provide solutions to them, whether they're, helping them reprice their mortgages or pay somebody. And that extension, I think, will continue as people start to, get out of this pandemic, because a cashless society means something simple, which is the ability to do everything you do in an entirely digital way. And, we've done a lot of research to show that people today will leave their wallets at home, their keys at home, but not their mobile phone, because they're using it as they leave their home. So think about the ability to now enable folks that were historically worried about privacy and security of their money, but now being forced to adopt it, suddenly starting to go, well, this is pretty convenient if I don't need a credit card and I can text you money, using a link. You take that one step further, and I think you start to see, models like we see in our business in China, where this has actually been the norm for a while, where the super app ecosystem means that you can actually start to pay people in virtual currency without even necessarily leaving the app ecosystem. And I think those kinds of approaches, I think, will be significantly more adopted in the West, given the situation we find ourselves in now with COVID-19.
All right, Nigel, appreciate the insight. Thanks so much for joining us today. And thank you for joining me on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.